Welcome everyone. So this is our second episode of Drams with Kam, and we're very fortunate today to have the team from Martell over here. Alexi from Martell, the brand ambassador, and Patricia Scott joining us as our guest taster. So let's get at it. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
No, our absolute pleasure. So generally Dram Good Stuff is known to be a whiskey shop, but not only do we keep whiskeys, we keep tequilas, we keep all sorts of spirits. And now we're hoping to carry a fine range of cognacs as well. And everybody knows if you're going to go to cognac, you have to go to Martell. So introduce the line to us. And
Absolutely. So Martell, if you don't know, is actually one of the oldest of the big cognac houses to come to existence. So it was founded in 1715 by Jean Martell, who actually is a native from Jersey. So he isn't actually French, whereas cognac is really typically French. So he really founded this kind of from a passion when he was just 21 years old and moved to that region as a merchant. And then it became what it is today as Martell, and actually remained in the Martell family for a very long time until the late 1900s. And then Pernod Ricard acquired it in 2001. But still today, the root of kind of everything that they try and put forward is that kind of craftsmanship and the family spirit. So when you walk around and you visit, that's the one thing that you feel all the time.
And do you have a nice visitor center for people to come and check out the
yeah.
property and
Everybody's so friendly. You can ask anybody any questions. You really feel that. I was really surprised that everybody really knew their names and everything.
Wow, nice.
And so it brings a little bit more of a spirit to the products as well, because often I think when you see the bottles after, like, kind of just in a shop, you forget that there's these people that are pouring their heart, their love, and their passion into it. So having visited it, it's truly something that stays with me whenever I open a bottle.
Nice.
So today we're really lucky because we're going to be trying some of the prestige range from Martell. So we'll be starting with the Cordon Bleu. The Cordon Bleu Extra will be next, and then we'll have the XO and the XXO. So I'll explain a little bit more about
That's a really pretty bottle.
It is. So the XXO is very new. It was just launched back here in December in Hong Kong. And I believe only China has it as well. So only China and Hong Kong.
So are we starting with that?
So we'll be starting with the
so
Cordon
let me
Bleu.
just have a quick...
Here you go. I'll give you that.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, let's get drinking.
So the Cordon Bleu was founded in 1912. So Cordon Bleu in French actually means blue ribbon. So the blue ribbon is a symbol of excellence. It was what was on the fastest ship at the time. So it was a bit of a competition to win the blue ribbon. Cheers!
Sorry, it was on the?
It was on some of the fastest ships. So it was a symbol of excellence and of prowess and of just being the best. And so they named it kind of as a tribute. To be one of the first cognacs to really be luxury and drank in like prestige areas as well. So that's a bit the story behind Cordon Bleu. So since 1912, we've had this product in the range.
It's a wonderful nose.
Isn't it?
It's lovely.
Right?
So how should one drink a cognac?
So actually typically when we drink cognac, we'll try and do a first nose without kind of swirling it in the glass or anything. And then we'll swirl it delicately, we'll do a second nose, and then we'll taste it, and then kind of swirl it around in our mouth as we usually do, get a little bit of oxygen.
So are we swirling now?
So first, smell it first without swirling. What do you think of it on the nose there?
Sweet.
Quite sweet, quite
Very
honeyed
sweet,
a little
yeah.
bit, yeah?
It's very heady.
Yeah.
It's very opulent, very rich.
And you get a little bit of a fruit, floral, orchard notes, maybe even a little bit of violet is often what I find. So what's special as well with the Cordon Bleu is we actually use one of the cru, which is called the Borderie, which represents only 5% of the cognac region. So something really special to Martell is we actually purchase 60% of the total production of the Borderie. So this is really a style that we want to put forward, that kind of finesse, that elegance, and those floral notes. So now we can swirl it delicately and then back up into the nose. What do you think?
It's much more floral after the swirl.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So more citrus notes as well.
Absolutely, some candied citrus is always what really comes forward. And you even find like some very subtle sweet spices, maybe a little bit of cinnamon.
Cinnamon is there.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you can take a sip and let's see what you think.
Ooh.
It's nice to drink something different.
That's really it's really smooth.
Very smooth.
Again, it's got a real kind of I call it a bitter finish. That's not a bad thing. It's like a orange peel,
Yeah.
kind of citrus finish.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See, it's very orangey.
Mhm.
It's very, very orangey.
Yeah.
I used to have these chocolates as a kid called Club.
Yeah.
And my favorite was orange. It reminds me of that.
Yeah. So it's great to, I mean, if you want to
It's
just have it
very-
with chocolate
yeah.
as well in the evenings, you can do that. It's perfect. You get some subtle, I get some very subtle mocha as well after it's kind of gone down as a finish. Very subtle coffee notes. And it really stays with you,
It's a nice,
As
nice
well.
finish.
Warming.
right? It's like the perfect kind of drink to have at the end of an
Makes you feel
evening.
good.
Yeah.
So
My
what's
dad would like this.
What's the ABV for this then?
So it's about 40%.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's usually what it is for all cognacs.
Oh,
a little
didn't know
cheaper.
that. That's a good
Yeah.
thing.
So it's quite similar to.
So
to
the
whiskey.
most basic questions that people tend to ask me is like, what's the difference between cognac and brandy?
Right. So I guess that's what's often mistaken. So brandy is basically quite similar to a cognac, but cognac is an appellation. So a cognac can only come from the cognac region. It has to be produced, distilled, aged in the cognac region, following other regulations in terms of the aging, the distillation process. We have to go through a double distillation. The grapes have to be this specific sort of grapes. So we really have to follow these kind of rules and regulations. So your
So brandy is a lot more latitude.
brandy is a lot more broad. So you
Okay.
can kind of, I don't know the exact, if there's any rules necessarily for brandy, but cognac is really protected
Okay.
and you have to follow these rules. So you're really ensured a certain quality when you're buying a cognac
Cognac,
product.
okay.
So quite similarly to what sparkling wine and champagne would be.
Exactly.
So champagne, very restrictive, and then sparkling wine is much wider.
Mm.
As
Similar
well.
to like America, you can make a bourbon anywhere, but you
Yeah.
can only make a Kentucky bourbon. in Kentucky.
In Kentucky.
Like
Exactly.
it's like
Yeah.
a higher grade or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's,
So as we move up the chain,
tell me.
what categorizes primarily for Martell a better cognac? So like I noticed you have Cordon Bleu and Cordon Bleu Extra. So is it
Yeah.
an age? Is it specifically like an age thing or?
So it's going to have a lot to do with the blend and what goes into the blend. So what we'll do, and I believe it's quite similar to whiskeys, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are the experts, but we'll take our eau de vie from one specific kind of cru or one specific plot, and then we'll let that age in the barrel, and then we'll like kind of profile that eau de vie, and then we'll decide on the blending after that.
Okay.
So what will kind of constitute a rarer or more precious cognac is the rarity or the age of the eau de vie that go into the blend as well. So for example, for which what we'll be trying right after the Cordon Bleu Extra, we put some extra old eau de vie from the Bordeaux specifically into the blend. So we can actually try it now if you're happy to,
Yes, yes.
and then you'll be able to see.
Allow me to do my little walk. Higher, low.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
You're welcome. So
I
you,
think I've got a second career in this one.
happy to help you with that. We can work on it together. So you can see on the, just on the first nose already, it's almost a lot more honeyed than the first one. I always compare the first nose to a tarte tatin in French, which is that caramelized apple tart. So you really have those rarer, older eau de vie that are in the blend that kind of bring out a little bit more of that really sweet spices, the cinnamon, the caramelized apple tart
This
to
is
begin with.
it's quite different.
That's a very
Yeah.
good description actually, because
Yeah.
it is
The
like you
caramelized?
can imagine smelling an apple tart with the
Yeah.
cinnamon
Yeah.
on top, and it's quite similar.
Always reminds me of home. So on the second nose, what do you think of it?
I haven't swallowed it yet. It's nice to be told what to do.
It just seems, I think when you swirl it,
Mm.
it amplifies the aroma a little bit more. But
Yeah.
it
I'm
seems to
finding a lot
include
of
the sweetness.
honeysuckle and it's a lot of
Absolutely.
sweetness. A lot of
Mm,
sweetness.
mm.
It's
So what type of casks are you using for the
So-
aging then?
part of the rule for cognac as well is they just have to be French oak. So we use exclusively fine grain French oak because you have a difference between fine grain and wide grain. So also quite unique to Martell is we only use fine grain oak for our cognacs. So what this will do is, what you can imagine is, you know when you kind of cut down a tree, you'll have the trunk,
Yeah.
and then you'll have the lines that kind of say the age.
Correct.
So for fine grain, the lines are much closer together, and for wide grain, the lines are going to be further apart. So this will kind of help prevent overpowered notes of kind of the tannins or the woody notes from
The oak.
Exactly.
In fact, I was going to ask you about that. Is the oakiness, is it something that you guys need to deal with? Because I know a lot of whiskeys tend to become only oaky,
Yeah.
and I don't like whiskeys like that.
Yeah.
So do you have a problem like that with your older cognacs?
So it's definitely in terms of the style. So they will always, the cellar masters and the kind of tasting team will decide when the eau de vie kind of reached its peak. So it can be aged anywhere from 2 years to 70 years in the barrel. And then obviously for Martell, we don't look for that very strong oaky woody notes. So it's something that we try and kind of like prevent or kind of balance ahead of time.
They completely, I mean, one would think it's a progression, and this would be a little bit, but if you do it side by side, it's actually quite
different.
individualized.
Yeah. But the Cordon Bleu Extra, it's we're same thing on the focus with the Borderie, so that's really what we're trying to put forward. But we're just putting some rare and more precious eau de vie in
So
it.
eau de vie are.
Eau de vie are what you get after the double distillation. So for cognac, we use exclusively white grapes.
Okay.
So mostly Uni Blanc, which is 98% of the cognac region, and then you have about 5 or 6 other grape varieties that you can use. And so the eau de vie are going to be after we've kind of pressed the grapes, we've done the alcoholic fermentation, we've done the 2 distillations, then we'll have our eau de vie. Exactly.
And kind of like the new make spirit for. I was just thinking, this is like when you go back to this.
The first one,
it's
right?
more creamy. It's like more sweet vanilla.
You know, I actually like the first one a little bit better. It's giving me a little bit more.
I feel like I get more on the nose.
On the second.
On the first
On
one.
the first one, exactly. Yeah, I'm getting more from it.
This is just more.
This
feels
the
more
second one.
subtle.
This is very soft, very subtle.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna wiggle it 2-3 times just like hello.
I mean, it's definitely a very delicate cognac as well.
Yeah, this one right away, it's just.
Absolutely. I mean, it'll be interesting to go back to it after 2. We can always compare all 4 together and kind of see. I think sometimes whenever we go back, we recognize the other notes, so they come out a little bit more as well.
So just for your information, the generosity of Martell is they actually brought all brand new bottles, thinking that we're gonna have three drams and they're gonna take the rest of the bottles back.
No.
Little do they know.
Always leaving them for you.
Little do they know. Shall we introduce the third one?
Absolutely. So
this is gorgeous, huh?
Right. So this is the Martell XO. So XO stands for extra old. And it's quite a contemporary design for a bottle, quite strong. Oftentimes we kind of like to say that it's a bit of a story of kind of the maison going across different bridges and bridging different cultures together, because we started exporting.
Oh, that's nice. I see that.
Yeah, exporting quite when the maison was quite young, and today obviously the international relations.
So this is obviously a lot darker.
Yes. So here we're in a totally different style. So already on the first nose, I'm sure you can smell it.
I'm getting all tingly. This is gonna be good.
So with the first 2 bottles, we were a lot more on the focus of the Borderie. So the Borderie is going to be more floral, more finesse, more elegance. For the XO, what we're going to be focusing on more is with the characteristics of the Grande Champagne. So the Grande Champagne is another region of the Cognac region, another area. And here, these are eau de vie that have a much stronger aging potential, we'll say. So we have some cognacs here, some eau de vie that will be aged for up to 70 years, for example.
Wow.
Yes, which we wouldn't necessarily have with the Borderie.
In the XO.
I can't say for sure, cellar master secret, sadly. Don't want to promise anything.
That's a question actually, because obviously in whiskey you get aged statements. Do
Yes.
you get this?
Exactly.
Cognac?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so today we don't have any.
So today we'll have 2 different age statements. So we'll have these 3, which are going to be the XO range.
Okay.
And XO means that the youngest in the blend needs to be at least 10 years old.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean that the youngest is 10 years old. It just means that this is kind of the guideline for cognac.
Okay.
And then up until 1 or 2 years ago, this was the highest age statement you could get. So it really didn't have much significance other than that. But now actually we have a new age statement, which was the XXO. which has just been introduced 1 or 2 years ago. And this obviously stands for extra, extra old, which means that the youngest in the blend has to be at least 14 years old. But that again is just kind of a barrier. That doesn't mean that the youngest is actually 14 years old. It's just kind of a point of reference.
This is nice.
So very different.
Very different.
Sometimes I think this one might be a little bit closer to what you might find in a whiskey as well.
It's closer to home. There's a familiarity now.
What do you get on the nose with this one?
It feels like those flavors I think you get with a more aged whiskey, and I think about this, this becomes more like an antique polish.
Okay.
I'm getting like little back to that leather and tobacco.
Yeah, it's just a little bit more intense. But I feel like there's a bit more spice coming through on the palate as well. So the oaks.
Exactly. So this is definitely one of its characteristics is really the spicy notes to it. Maybe a little bit of like peppercorn, but then you'll get a little bit more woody notes. You'll get a bit more sandalwood on this one than you would, for example, in the other two. And so a little bit more nutty rancio notes.
Still that citrus. I feel like the finish on a lot of them, it feels quite minty to me. It's like a really refreshing.
That's the tingliness that you get,
it's a tingly
right?
kind of refreshing finish.
Interesting.
It's really lovely.
Yeah. This one is it's a very powerful finish as well when it goes into the palate.
So coming back to the brand Martell.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of companies that operate on a certain platform. I mean, that's the core ethos of a company.
Right.
And they stick true to it, and their product line represents it. So what would you say would be like the core guiding ethos of the product range of Martell? I mean, what makes the cut to be branded as a Martell cognac?
So there's going to be a few different elements to it. One thing that Martell I always equate to is what I was saying earlier, that true craftsmanship that comes behind it, and sticking to your roots and to the family. The second wife of Jean Martell, who took over after he unfortunately passed away quite young in the 1750s, she kind of put in the statement of always the best without any trickery. So it's always putting the best and wanting the quality ahead of anything else before kind of putting anything false that might mask it or make up for it, we'll say. So that's something that always rings very true to me. And then there's always been this kind of this international aspect of Martell, being a very French house, still really quite based in France, but expanding very quickly and going internationally and kind of putting that at the...
So do you still guys use that tag, the House of Martell? Is that still used? I remember years ago it used to be branded like that.
Who knows what they do nowadays?
You
know, you change it all the time.
It's very French.
It is.
The house of something.
It is. We always say maison or the maison. So Maison Martell for the champagnes as well.
This is really very nice.
It is. So a lot closer. I kind of always like to compare the Cordon Bleu and the XO as kind of a brother and sister sometimes, because they're both in the XO range. So they're quite similar, but they're so different in what they bring out and their aspects. And so that's why I always think kind of like a brother and sister.
I have a question around the colour.
Tell me.
So in the whiskey industry, so a lot of the there's very strict laws, but they're still allowed to add. Some distilleries will add the caramel colour in to kind of make it a little bit more consistent. Does a similar thing happen with cognac?
So we're not allowed to add anything except that specific one. So it's quite typical across whiskey and cognac is that there's only one thing that you can do to kind of make the color a little bit more regular. Because obviously then whenever you want to do falsifications, if the color isn't stabilized when it comes out of the house, how else are you really able to bunch it out? Yeah, so it's quite similar. Actually, we have a whiskey ambassador at work as well, and we're doing a few videos together comparing the difference between cognac and whiskey as well. Because we often had these conversations and we're like, oh, it's the same. Oh no, that's so different. So we always like to learn a little bit more on that front.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So before we go to the last one, I noticed that on some of the items that you've offered to us to present to our clients, there's a series of single estate bottlings.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we don't have any of those here, obviously, but what's the story behind that?
So single estate is, we'll have 3 bottles in the single estate collection, and the objective really of the single estate is to showcase one estate, one domain particularly. So, and what we do as well with Martell is we'll have the first one, the Domaine de Charbonnier, which is going to really showcase the Borderie. So so it's 100% from that cru in the Borderie, from that domain. You'll have nothing else in it.
Okay.
We'll have the two others as well. So the second level, Sim-Gion. There we will focus on the Grand Champagne. So what you'll get is the Grand Champagne.
That's what I'm buying.
It's also a vintage for the
Okay.
second level. So it's a vintage from 1989.
Oh,
So you're really going into the single cru, the single domain, and the single year.
check, check, check.
Check, check, check. Exactly. So if you wanted anything more like specific or unique, this is definitely one that you'd want to go for.
Okay.
And then our last one is going to be Acuillo, sorry. And what you'll have there is a focus on the Petit Champagne, which is another domain. And also a vintage, but this one from 1978.
Do you have a favorite?
I actually have not yet been able to taste
Oh,
2
so-
out of 3 of those.
So the next time we do.
So next time we'll do the single estate specifically. So it'll be an excuse for me to finally be able to taste them. It's just like with the XXO. Everybody always wants to fight to be able to try them because they're so rare that it's hard to get your
It
hands
is
on.
funny because I think like being like a brand ambassador,
Yeah.
people think that you've tried
Everything and all the
But
time.
actually, sometimes the products are just so rare that
it-
even the brand ambassadors
yeah,
don't
yeah,
get
yeah.
to try them. So
They have to come to Dram
Need
with
someone
stuff.
like you.
They have to come to Dram with stuff to try them.
Exactly.
Shall we introduce this one now?
Let's do the.
This
the last
bottle's
one.
like a work of art.
It is, isn't it? So it's almost like a
Beautiful.
carafe, you know? You don't need to put it into anything else. You really just have it. It's quite heavy as well, so you really have that strength
It's just
in
beautiful.
the hand. So the XXO is actually named after the Château de Chanteloup as well. So exactly. So the Chanteloup XXO. And so the design that you'll see on the bottle actually represents the gates
Thank you.
of a specific cellar that we have on the Chateau's estate.
So
Thank you
those
so
are
much.
wrought iron gates that they've designed. and
Exactly.
they've copied. Oh, very nice.
Exactly. And so this is what they've copied because this is where they actually do some of the finishing as well for the Chanteloup bottle. So it's
So
really
that's the
rare.
place to go to Martell and take a selfie. And
Exactly. You go to the Chateau Chanteloup and it's an incredible estate. It's been in the family for years. And was really lucky to be able to stay, and you have like deer that kind of run
Oh,
around
nice.
and you can feed them. And then when we had a tour of the cellar, and you need this kind of old iron key, you know, like in the old.
It's a nice big one with a.
Exactly, it's a nice big one.
Like one of those Snow White witch's keys. Like.
Yeah. And you actually have a garden in front of it with a lot of like flowers and spices, and we often like to say the story that sometimes the cellar master will walk around to get inspired and smell the different smells. So that'll inspire him as well. So this is definitely
You've got a whole new glass for this.
fancy glass.
so this is it's very new. It's quite rare. I think we sold out very quickly when we launched it back in December. So it's definitely quite sought after, and it's been fought over in the office quite a few times by the different teams. What do you think on the nose already? You get such depth and complexity, don't you?
That was the word that came to my head was
Right.
complexity. I think I think the sign of any good spirit is complexity. So it doesn't necessarily have
Yeah.
to be age, but I think maturation and the older it definitely helps with that.
I
but
could nose this for days.
yeah,
Yeah.
it gives and it gives, right?
And it keeps kind of evolving every time you go back in. So here we're in a blend of about 450 different wood beers.
450.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, 450. So obviously we have extra rare, extra precious wood beers in it that really kind of give it its justification for an XXO. So to give you a bit of a comparison, there will be at 450 and there will be at about 100 for the Cordon Bleu. So
what's your top cognac in your portfolio?
It depends on what I want to do with it and when I'm drinking. Obviously.
Okay, to be crude, what's your most expensive cognac?
So the most expensive one is going to be L'Or de Jean Martell.
Okay.
That one's going to be a blend of about 750 different wood beers. The complexity that you'll find there.
So does the
is
price
like
go up as the mix goes up?
It's
Or
going to be
is
part
that
of
just
the.
part of it?
I think it's part of it, and then obviously you have part of the aging processes and how complex is the blend as well. What you put into the blend. Do you put younger cognacs, older eau de vies?
This is so floral and so spicy at the same time.
I just love nosing.
It's very
I
unique.
spend all my time nosing. So I have a question around would you recommend always drinking cognac straight, or can you drink the maybe less developed stuff with a mixer, or what would you do?
Yeah, so I think that's often actually a misperception for cognac, and sometimes I think it suffers a little bit from that thought. So I thought the same when I was younger. My mom would always drink cognac kind of neat at night. So whenever I would smell it, or as I grew up, I always thought like, oh well, then that's just how you have to drink cognac. It's always neat.
Like you pour it over Red Bull and stuff like that.
Never what I thought. So I was like, no, it's what my parents drink. That's it. And then as I kind of grew up, I kind of discovered that actually, well, no, you don't just have the really nice cognacs that like we're trying today, or the XOs. We'll also have the VS and VSOPs, which are much younger in terms of the blend. And those are great to have neat on ice, on the rocks, in long drinks, or even in cocktails.
I was going to say, I don't think I've had a cognac-based cocktail before, and I'm just, what do you think works?
So that's actually my favorite go-to drink nowadays.
Which one?
So if I'm really going for something straightforward, simple, I'll just have like a Martell VSOP with some ginger ale in it, for example, and just like an orange slice in it. Then you can kind of make it a little bit fancier. You can do a sidecar. Cognac sours are great as well.
I like the ginger ale thing.
Yeah,
because I love a whiskey
ginger
sour.
ale is just so simple. So it's just like it's easy to make. The other day I did.
This one is quite drying on the palate. I mean, it's almost tannic. I mean, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but
it's that spice again. It's like more, But again, it's
you get more spiciness on the palate.
Yes, for sure.
But it's so complex. On the nose, it's still quite light. You get that spiciness, but you also get that fruitiness and that floralness that really comes forward.
The finish is unending.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just been waiting and waiting to take my next sip, and it's unending.
That's what's incredible with it. It's a cognac that just keeps on giving and giving and giving every single time.
So does one add like drops of water and stuff? Does that help?
So it depends on preference. I sometimes think that it masks a little bit, but then others might think that it opens up a little bit as well, because it'll kind of cover up a bit of the spiciness I find as it comes down, or the finish. But sometimes with the stronger ones, people will like to add a little bit of water.
So you said they're always 40, or does that's 40 ABV?
Yeah.
Always.
Right.
Just about. Yeah. 40.
That's probably one of the main differences for
whiskeys. You have a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah.
56.3.
That was 56.3.
No, it's 50.
I was gonna say, I would be surprised.
That's 56.3.
No, that's 40.
Yeah, it's very, very smooth.
Isn't it?
Right?
Should we cheers to this last one?
We should.
I think the glasses will make a really nice little sound as well.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, they do!
Any final questions?
Any final questions?
Any favorites otherwise?
No questions. I think you've answered quite a lot of them. Favorites? First and last.
First and last.
I think the first one, the nose. It was. I think they tell the difference between, something that you can probably drink every day to something that's very, very special, right? I think that is like the nose on that's delicious, but the complexity and the finish on that, it just
it's like a treat every time.
It is. You know you're drinking something special when you drink something like that.
Absolutely.
So,
How about for you, Kam? The XO?
The XO in this.
And that one? The one's very close to the whiskey.
This really surprised me.
Really? Okay.
Because I in winter time I'm a cognac drinker.
Oh really? Okay.
So I drink cognac in winter.
Great.
And I am now feeling bad that I actually don't drink this in winter. That's what I should be drinking.
Good.
Yeah.
We've convinced you then. And then you can drink the XO as well in winter. This is a great one for winter too.
How much would this cost in Hong Kong dollars?
It depends where you go. I've seen it go up to about 6,000.
How much do we have? We actually have a promo on this after this event.
You have a promo?
Don't be cheeky.
Amazing!
Don't be
Tell
cheeky.
us more! Give us all the details.
Check out our Facebook page.
Let that in there.
Oh, that reminds me, we do have a promo, and one of the promos is that for the first 10 orders from the Cordon Bleu and higher, you actually get one of these beautiful glasses with the Martell logo, and I believe a miniature. So for the first 10 clients of that.
That's actually was going to be one of my questions. Glassware.
Yes.
Would you always want to drink it a glass like this, or would drinking cognac? Would you drink? Because I've seen the kind of bigger,
Those.
the bigger ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
the balloon glasses?
Yeah, like what
I
would
think
you-
the balloon glasses are better when you're adding rocks on it. If you
Okay.
want to do it neat, I think this is great.
Side.
But then I think often the thing that kind of scares people as well from trying the nicer products, they always think they need to do everything perfectly. So I'm kind of like, you know, if whatever works for you,
Yeah.
and whatever
Find a
you
glass, pour it, drink
Exactly.
it.
Just drink it and enjoy
Job
it.
done.
Exactly, and then you'll enjoy it the way it is
Yeah.
and the way you like it anyway.
This is very nice.
Because it's so particular to everybody's taste. I mean, these are already all
It's a remarkably long finish. I mean, considering in terms of any spirit,
Yeah,
this is a remarkably long finish.
that's what makes it really
Did
special.
you,
as well.
450.
450 it would be, yeah.
And remind me, the XXO is what minimum?
So the
14.
youngest has to be at least 14
At
years old.
least 14.
And the oldest generally can go up to
Whatever.
100?
It's difficult because we don't want too much of that
Woodiness.
woodiness
Yeah,
to these
okay.
as well.
Not a fan.
So it'll depend on the cellar master what he thinks we need to add to the blend.
And sorry, so you said the top of the line was the ore.
The Lord de Jean Martel, yeah.
Lord is it. And is that a limited production, or is it generally easily? I mean, can
Yeah.
one order it and find it in stores, or is it?
It's harder to find in stores, definitely, but then we kind of work a little bit more with the more direct, works quite well. If you want to
Okay.
be sure to get one, we can definitely help, or anybody can go through you to
Okay.
get it as
So
well.
it is. So we do have access to them.
Yes, I think it's a little bit harder to find in kind of the general wider stores because obviously it's such a prestige product.
So you can't walk into like a 7-Eleven and say.
Definitely not.
I think that next to the red label. That all next to the red label.
Because obviously when you get to those sort of products, they're a lot more limited, they're a
Yeah.
lot harder to get, and the price point is obviously a lot higher,
higher.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
It was
having
really
me.
a pleasure having you.
I finished that one.
You
so-
finished
Yeah.
that. There you go. I'd love to hear the
And thank you everyone who joined us. It was a pleasure having you with us. And until the next Drams Who Can. Ciao.
Cheers.